What's up, y'all? Sparty here. For this video, what I want to talk about is LG in the state of 2020. And I know I do a lot of LG videos mainly because that seems to be the only thing that people seem to care about on my channel. So I guess I'll just keep talking about them. And I'm not saying that because I'm burnt out or anything. It's just, I haven't slept yet, and I just got off work. So not just got off work. It's been a few hours, but whatever. And I'm downstairs in the living room. That's why this isn't my typical setup. So LG in 2020. The V60, and this is something that really intrigued me about how the tech space took that phone and handled the conversation around that phone. It's the same thing that almost always happens. Like after the G6, LG pretty much stopped trying to be first to the market with certain features. The G3 was one of the first phones that had a quad HD display and a laser autofocusing system for their cameras. The G4 was one of the first to actually advertise a manual photo mode and use that in their marketing. The G5 was, the G5. No, but for real, the G5 was their modular phone, and they were following in the footsteps of Motorola, and they did it differently. They attempted to still keep stuff like, a removable battery, but also give you something fun to do with the phone, and that came at the cost of build quality overall for the phone and, just stuff like that. But overall, the phone was still really good. In my personal opinion, there was a lot of stuff to like about the G5, but I understand why people don't like it. G6 was the first with the always-on display. And no, I'm not talking about an ambient display like what OnePlus and Motorola, and a lot of other companies still tend to do. Like LG was the first to advertise an always-on display, and then Samsung came out after they advertised. The G6 was advertised to have an always-on display, and so yeah, we're having an always-on display on the, what phone was that? It was the S7. Yeah, it was the S7. And I'm not trying to say, Samsung just copied LG. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. These things a lot of this stuff is planned in advance. Maybe Samsung decided they wanted to have that as well. Sorry, I don't want you to see my feet. But, yeah, G7, boombox. It was the first, it was the first LG phone, because no other phone really did that. No phone really used the frame of the phone as a resonant chamber to push out sound and make sound wider when you put it on the surface. The G7 was the best for that, and that also was one of the things to alleviate it not having stereo speakers. And to me, that worked very well. The G8 had stereo speakers, but it had an in-display speaker and a bottom-firing speaker, so it had stereo speakers. And if you tune up and if you bump up the equalizer on your G8, you can definitely it will definitely help with the loudness of that speaker. That's where the G line ends. V10, first to have one that had the second screen, and V20 had second screen as well. And the only company to really copy the second screen was HTC with the U11, I think. Yeah, I believe it's the U11. It was the phone that basically everybody panned because it kind of felt half baked. And what the V series, and I'm gonna just V series. Altogether, audio, they focused on audio. They were pretty much, they added a full manual video mode too, that you can tweak every single setting live while recording, and that's something that no other phone still is doing other than LG phones. Like Samsung, for example, you could record in manual video mode and you could adjust stuff like the focus, I think, and I think you can't adjust shutter speed. I know that, but you can only do so much. Where there are like 2 or 3 modes that are locked off, whereas LG, every single mode you can use, every single setting you can adjust while you're using the phone, while you're recording. So they did that. V30 didn't really add much. It was the first phone from LG in a while to bring back OLED, and that had its controversy. V40 was one of the first phones with a triple camera setup, but it was a triple camera setup that everyone's copying now, and everyone claims is essential. Where it was the regular lens, the main camera, the telephoto camera, and the wide angle camera. The V40 was the first phone to have that. The V50 had the same deal, but what the V50 brought was dual screen. And G6 and V30 had thermal cooling. After that whole Note 7 debacle, they were like, yeah, let's add thermal cooling to our phones too, even though they never really had any issues with like batteries going the same way the Note 7 did. And they've pretty much been having thermal cooling in their phones ever since. I don't know if the Velvet does, and it's really hard to know if the V60 does, because Jerry Rig Everything hasn't done a video on it, and I don't see many teardown videos that show me whether or not it does. But the phone does stay really cool, so maybe it does. But yeah, the V60 also has that, and has the dual screen, and it's LG's newest phone. And really the thing that they did was bring back crop zoom rather than having the telephoto lens, which most phones do anyway in like certain lighting conditions and stuff like that. And for me, and they did do the 64 megapixel camera as well, which is that main sensor. And people had a whole big, people made up this whole very weird argument that, because the V60 doesn't have 3 cameras, it's inferior to the other phones, even though the telephoto lens doesn't really create that good of an image. It doesn't. And they were doing something different with the phone, and it's just weird to me that people just want to sit here and be like, yeah, your V60 is just so bad because it doesn't have this and that and this and that. And the main reason that a lot of the features that people say are drawbacks happened with the V60 is because a lot of what, they decided to do, they asked their community about, asked the people that actually use their phones about. Like, the people that use their phones don't care about a telephoto lens. The people that use their phones don't really care if it has a 1440p display or not. The people that use their phones wanted a bigger battery, and we got that. They wanted the quad DAC. They like dual screen. There's a lot of this stuff that has been refined and has been paid attention to with this phone that they just asked their community about. The same thing OnePlus does, and the same thing a lot of phone companies should do. Like, LG is a niche product. in terms of like compared to Samsung and Apple. Even though technically they're still like the number 4 or 5th in the market, they they're mainly that because of their lower end phones. Their lower end phones are pretty dang popular. I see Stilos everywhere, and that's nice. But their flagships never really after the G2 and G3 and G4. After that, the flagships didn't take off. They didn't really they started dwindling in numbers after the G2, and that's sad, right? Okay, the G2 had OIS. It had optical image stabilization. It was the first phone to really take the whole small phone, a sizable phone for one's hand, tiny bezels to give you the illusion of you basically holding a screen in your hand. And back then, it was like, whoa. Now it's not really that impressive, but it's just something that's really nice. It was one of the first phones with a 1080p display as well. And that was LCD. Yeah, and then there's the Velvet. And the Velvet is getting more positive reception with these two, with the V60 and Velvet. LG seems to be striking a certain chord with these markets that is very interesting. Like, the Velvet price just came out for like the US, and it's going to be like $599. And to me, that's a really good price point. That hits right below the base OnePlus, the regular OnePlus 8. And to me, that's really good. It's like, it has 5G. It's good enough for the basics. You could do you could do good gaming on it. You can render in 4K, render videos and stuff in 4K 60. God, this keeps happening. My bad, y'all. It's, I'm using natural light, so bear with me. And the Velvet seems to be hitting more of a chord with people, even though it's lacking stuff like a quad DAC, but it still has it still has a headphone jack that competes with higher end phones. That isn't an LG phone, obviously, but that isn't like a V60 because you can't do that if you don't have a quad DAC. So yeah, it's really weird because I really do like this direction LG is going, where they're streamlining their phones. There were like 3-4 different versions of the G8 for different markets. Not to mention the G8X. While there was only one V50. I guess technically two, because only the Korean model had the dual screen. So I guess you could say two. But, yeah. Whereas with the V60, there's only one model of the V60. With the Velvet, there's only one model of the Velvet. And to me, and not to mention like the different V35s and all that stuff. There were like 3 different V30s. Like, in terms of like the V30, V35, V35 Plus. And it's just, honestly, like I said, I really do like this direction LG is going. They're focusing more on the upper, not necessarily lower high end, because they're still doing high end stuff, obviously, but they're not focusing on the eye candy. They're not focusing on just wowing you with like a certain experience, with like, oh, look at this super smooth, high refresh rate screen and stuff like that. They're not doing that, but they're getting better with updates. They're doing a lot of this stuff that I really feel is nice, and I feel people really do need to pay attention to, because it's not just this cascade of bad stuff for LG. LG is doing a lot of good stuff, and I'd say pay attention to them more and see what they do the next year. Hopefully they don't axe the V series, but I don't see them having an LG Velvet and an LG V70. I don't think that's gonna be that good. The I don't like I have enough faith that people will be able to delineate that, and if they drum it up enough, be like, this is our high end series, the V series, and this is just. And I don't think there's gonna be a Velvet 2. They might call the next iteration of the Velvet something different. To me, that might be how they do it. But I at least want to get to a V80 before they decide to axe it. So yeah, we'll see though. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys feel about this. I made this too long and too rambly. I should have scripted this a little bit, but I just got off work, so I'm pretty tired. But yeah, let me know if you guys do like this direction LG is going. I think it's smarter than just releasing 3, 4 different versions of the same phone and losing money on most of them, especially in the major markets. So yeah, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday or whatever time of day it is in your area. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share with people that are interested in this sort of content. Thanks for 813 subscribers. Keeps fluctuating because YouTube. But yeah, have a good one, you guys.